and welcome to Fourth Estate, the show where we tackle all things journalism and media here in Zimbabwe. I am Faith Nyaude. Now, in 2020, the Broadcasting Authority of Zimbabwe licensed 6 new commercial television stations on the digital terrestrial television platform, popularly known as DTT. However, accessibility has been a challenge as only 18 out of 48 transmitters were installed, while the number of set-top boxes on the market still remains very low. To discuss the rollout of Zimbabwe's digitalization program and other matters that do affect the media sector, my guest tonight is Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services Minister, Jennifer Muswere. Minister, thank you so much for joining us. Now, to just start it off, you are here at Zimpapers launching the group's new bookshop, which is part of their portfolio expansion drive. What are your thoughts on it?
Thank you, President. I'm more than happy that we've come here to witness a process that started way back in terms of total transformation of Zimpapers as an institution to move from a physical copy or print-based institution to a totally digitally transformed institution. We're here to underline and put in place yardsticks that will allow us to be able to numerically measure the success, the total transformation of Zimpapers as an institution. So coming here also is in line with the government trust as we've embarked on the total transformation of this economy into a digital economy. And of course, as an institution under the purview of the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting Services, from the date of appointment, we've had a number of meetings in the board management and staff as we seek to transform Zimpapers from the print media to a digitally transformed institution. So we are here to ensure that this becomes a success story. So 4 cardinal pillars that we are following in order to ensure that this becomes a success story. For transformation is just continuous improvement. This is based on the cash flows. This is also based on the balance sheet, is also based on your books of account as an institution. That the business was built around the print media. And also the recalibration of the whole business model, the restructuring that should follow through as roles and responsibilities change. Because we've reached the point of convergence, we've also reached the point where the 4th industrial revolution cannot be ignored. So the total transformation of the whole business strategy of Zimpapers as the institution is to take by taking into consideration 4 pillars. The 4 pillars, in order to totally transform how a business operates, is to look at a business transformation of Zimpapers, is to look at the cultural transformation of Zimpapers, the digital transformation of Zimpapers, and the behavioral transformation of the institution. These 4 should then be supported by a continuous transformation chain, which is continuous improvement, by utilizing the Kaizen label. For the most dynamic resource that is at Zimpapers is the human resource. So the restructuring has to take place at the same time. The whole overhaul of the business methodology that is ensured that traffic that generally followed the print media is gone down. It has gone up high. So this is the reality that we have to live with, that Zimpapers is to be part, the digital economy is to be part of a total digital transformation of the institution. So this is part of the process. For we believe as government that what gets measured gets done. So we've put in place the numerical targets that by April, the full digitalization of Zimpapers as an institution should have been completed. So this was a digital groundbreaking ceremony to mark the commencement of the digital transformation of the institute. But obviously, taking into consideration the organizational development, the change agents, and the consultants, and the teamwork that is required in order to transform the institution. You will recall that over the past decades, Zimpapers is also diversified into radio, into television, but now is the right time to also transform the physical print media now into a digital model. But all this is also supported by a number of policies, interventions that have been put in place by the government of Zimbabwe in order to ensure that with what information you put across the country. National ICT policy is put in place in order to support the growth of all industries that utilize digital infrastructure. And at the same time, the National Broadband Plan is put in place in order to ensure that with the ubiquitous connectivity across the country. For the media industry is now got to ride on the digital infrastructure that has been put in place. So all those other initiatives that include the magnetic climate, both in the media industry and also in the telecom sector, have reached that point of conversion that allows the free flow of information within these two critical sectors of the economy. So this is part of performance management systems. It's also part of the management by walking around as we come to see, to experience part of the transformation by taking into consideration the three critical pillars in terms of the board management staff to work together to ensure that this becomes a census state.
One of those things that the audience need are digital terrestrial television, something that is quite limited at this time. What is your plan in regards to that?
The first issue that we will need to appreciate is that the first phase of the Zing Digital project is being done. So what needs to be finalized is the second phase of the Zing Digital project. Cabinet recently approved the Zing Digital Phase 2, and it includes taking care of transmedia's requirements in terms of the technological sovereignty, in that transmedia's major responsibility as the signal carrier is to ensure that we leave no one in no place behind. So we're starting with the roadmap which we developed, starting first with the digital infrastructure master plan, then prioritizing principally the border areas in order to achieve media surveillance. And part of the Zim Digital implementation modality also includes publicity requirements. We'll now have an ecosystem which is fully sustainable and functional, which will also include a content hub platforms whereby we are going to develop content hubs across the country in order to support the film in the sports industry. And at the same time, these content hubs will then feed into the ecosystem, which ecosystem will also be managed by the Broadcasting Authority of Sclafo. So part of the Zim Digital Phase 2 is actually started in terms of the requirements. What probably is going to take place in the first quarter of next year is the official launch of the second phase of Zim Digital Phase 2. But we also have a numerical target. In 2 years, we should have completed the second phase of the Zim Digital Phase 2. But also, what is also of importance is that a cost-cutting measure is being put in place in terms of infrastructure sharing. That most of the passive infrastructure will be shared between the broadcasting institutions, in particular transmedia, and the telcos, the mobile network operators, and also including ZSAs, also including many other council properties, as we seek to ensure that we do not duplicate the cost in terms of investment. So the Zim Digital Phase 2 will be officially launched next year. What is taking place right now is the implementation modality, and in particular, the procurement of the critical infrastructure. But the bulk of the infrastructure will be locally procured.
Now, locally procured, then that means cutting some costs. How much then is needed for this whole entire process to be completed? How much are we talking about?
The first digital infrastructure master plan that we've done clearly indicates that for the ecosystem will be sustainable and functional, we need roughly around $75 million. So domestic resource mobilization is skipped, and we are pretty sure that within a space of 2 years, we'll be in a position to be able to complete and to achieve media sovereignty. And of importance is that the rollout will also be supported by fully functional heritage-based ecosystem, which takes into consideration the 16 officially recognized languages. So you now have more of Shona, more of Debele, Kalanga, Sutu, Tswana, Chewa, and many other languages, as we seek to ensure that we leave no place behind. So Zim Digital Phase 2 is there to ensure that we achieve media sovereignty as a country. It's there to ensure that we carry the signal across all the 10 provinces. As government, we believe that an informed society, an informed population is very important for nation gain. And also to highlight what you had also asked, that the whole business model around advertising follows traffic. So the total transformation of Zimpapers is going to ensure that the content and the traffic are aligned to the total transformation of Zimpapers as an institution. It will also ensure that it brings profitability and also sustainability. And in terms of human resources, we will now have more employees, roles and responsibilities towards the digital transformation of the institution.
Now, my next question was obviously going to be, most media houses is facing a lot of challenges in regards to revenue generation, given the ad spend that has, drastically declined, so to speak, because of social media, of course. And then my question was then going to be, how is the ministry going to be helping some of these media houses? And you've answered on behalf of Zimpapers, but what of on behalf of other media institutions?
The same applies. I've had an opportunity to go around to almost all the media houses in here, and I think almost every media house visited. The whole idea is around the digital transformation of the media youth. In this government, you have put in place regulatory and fiscal and also monetary tax holidays that have allowed the media industry to be able to operate activities. And at the same time, in terms of programming and in terms of ensuring that it is transparent and that the media industry is part of the government's architecture in terms of informing, raising awareness, educating the population. We've put in place a number of programs which also includes the post-qualification sessions, the academics, the media sessions, and the openness of His Excellency the President, the Blau, the leaders of every state, to participate in all developmental initiatives as we seek to ensure that we do not have any information gain in our country. But at the same time, the legislative side, we've legislated in terms of ensuring that the constitutional obligations that allow members of the state to have access to all information is you that you got as we seek to ensure that access to information across all of the industry is supported. But at the same time, we've also ensured that it is freedom in terms of how the industry has evolved, the liberalization of the media industry. We now have more television stations, more radio stations. We now have more newspapers, and all that is a platform that his government has created in order to comply with the Constitution and also in order to allow the proliferation of information in all languages and at the same time in order to ensure that it costs no place. So we also have a ministerial advisory committee which we've put in place, which is allowed media institutions to be able to discuss in government any challenges that we face, including the tax break that we've also used in order to allow the media industry to be able to import their equipment, which was part duty-free, in order to allow the growth of the media. Fourth estate is very important in the growth and development of the country.
Well, it's definitely growing and it's definitely changing. Minister, thank you so much for sitting down and talking to us today.
Also important is that early next year, we're launching the media and communications policy, which is the first media and communication policy in our country, which contains all the modalities in Cuba, the digital transformation of the media producing. Citizen journalism is also part of it. Co-regulation is also part of using the policy. And then other issues is the National Employment Council for the media industry is also parcel of the new policy.
It means catering for the welfare of the journalists. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Minister, for sitting down and talking to us today. Well, that is it. We've come to the end of this episode of Fourth Estate. We were joined by Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services Minister Jennifer Muswere. I have been your host, Faith Nyawande. Goodbye and pleasant viewing.